right, you guys, as you can see by the thumbnail, I'm back with another one like the other one. So before I get into this story, you guys know I got to go there. So let me just say this. I'm gonna keep this short and sweet, concise, to the point. The other night I released a video. It was about a 15-minute video, and I told you guys that one of my sources basically called and told me that Tablas had just gotten hit. Now, me knowing Tablas, me knowing, the magnitude of something like this, I made it very clear that this wasn't something that I could stand on. This was secondhand information. I didn't know if it was true. I didn't know, there was nothing concrete on it at that point. And I made it clear. I made myself so clear that I probably repeated it like 8 times, to the point where some of you were like, you know what, this video was a 15-minute video and you just repeating yourself, because I wanted to make it very clear that I wasn't standing on that. But obviously something that big, I wanted to put it out there. Now, I elected to take the video down, not because I believe that that information isn't true. I still do not know yet. But my thing was this. I told you guys when I released that video that I would have an update the following morning at around 12 o'clock, that afternoon, the next morning. That didn't come. The individual that gave me that information, basically it told me that he had got a phone call from somebody in Pelican Bay, and that as he was talking to this individual, that incident had just kicked off. It had literally just kicked off. Now, when I thought about this, I'm like, why would somebody just pull this out their ass, just come out of nowhere with something like this? Tablas, this is a name that, there's no agenda here on my part. There's just nothing that would, make anybody believe that this is fake. It just came out of nowhere. I'm not looking for information like that. It literally dropped on my lap. So I let you guys know that. And I told you I was very careful about that. I basically left it in your guys' hands on whether or not you wanted to believe it. But I was stepping out of it. I told you guys, I can't stand on this. I don't know. This is not something that, I'm willing to put my stamp on, because I just had nothing concrete on it. And like I said, the reason why I elected to take the video down is because I'm going through the comments. I'm going through all the comments, and I see a lot of the haters. I already knew that was going to happen. But that's not the reason why I took it down. There was one comment in there that led me to take it down. And that comment was something to the effect of, hey, I'm asking you with all due respect. This is not confirmed, and out of respect for Tablas's family, can you please take the video down? That was the right thing to do, because at that point, 12 o'clock noon the next day had already came and passed, and I wasn't comfortable with leaving that video up. Nobody else was dropping anything on it. So I was like, you know what? So I figured the best thing to do was to just take it down. It could possibly still go back up if it's true. I haven't got a confirmation on it one way or the other. But, let me tell you guys like this, man. I'm going to tell you guys like this. Those of you, and there's not a lot of you, but there's a handful of individuals that are starting to try to spin this narrative, fake news. It was a lie. We're not going to do that. Nobody's gonna attack my credibility, because those of you that have been with me in my channel from day one, you guys know what type of character I am. You guys know I don't put out stuff to get views, fake stuff. I don't embellish stuff. Unless I know that something's factual because I seen something, or there's something that is strong enough to lead me to put my stamp on it. I won't stamp it. I'll leave it alone. And that's what I did. I had a choice when this information came out. Do I put it out there, or do I not put it out there? And I elected to put it out there with a disclaimer to basically let you guys know, look, man, whether you believe this or not, you might not want to believe it because it's unsubstantiated. This is coming from somebody that I haven't confirmed it. So I don't know if it's factual. But again, there's people that are trying to spin this narrative. And if you guys really think that I'm that malicious type of individual to do something like that, that's my stilo, and that's what I'm about, then don't even tap into this channel. I do this for you guys. I don't play no games. I'm transparent. I try to be as straight up as I can. You know, I'm not with the games. I'm not with the bullshit. I don't get caught up in the drama. And this is the second time that I've put something out based on somebody else's information, and I've been stung twice, and it will not happen again. I can tell you that right now. In retrospect, even though I still feel like, what, I put a disclaimer out. I let these guys know that, look, this isn't solid information. I can't stand on it. Maybe I still shouldn't have put it out there. So either way, man, my thing is, if you think that's my get down, then don't tap into my channel, man. Don't tap into my channel, because that's not what I'm about. I've been straight up, and I've been this way for years now. I've been doing this channel for a while. I'm not gonna put out something like that to get some views. One of you said that it was just to get some views. Come on, man. Come on. The funny thing that stands out about this is that I understand that nothing has come in, to confirm it. But on the flip side, nothing has come in to not confirm it either. Nobody's tapping in saying, hey, you know what? He's over here. Nothing happened. I'm over here. There's a lot of people that tap in to YouTube. And when I did talk to the source, the individual that relayed this message to me, he told me, he was like, bro, he's like, I'm thinking they're still on lockdown. But my thing was like, well, yeah, I understand that. But they got cell phones, bro. I mean, you would think that people would know something about that. Somebody would hear about it, and nobody's saying nothing about it. So I don't know. But I'm not going to get into all that. I'm not going to allow nobody to attack my credibility, especially when I was very careful about how I put that video out there. I could understand if I was to just jump out there like some of these other channels, breaking news. Hey, listen, Dallas just got hit right now. I just heard about it, and it just happened in Pelican Bay. And, this is concrete. This is factual, straight up. You're hearing it here first. That didn't happen. It didn't happen. Again, I was very clear about it. So if you guys want to do that, that's cool, man. But that's not what I'm about. So anyways, I've said enough, man. Let me get into this video. I've rambled on about this enough. I don't even think that, I should have to do that. Some of you, I think, are just trying to push that agenda because, maybe I'm speaking on things that you don't like me speaking about. And that's okay. But you're not going to attack my credibility, and you're not going to, paint me out to be this type of individual that does foul shit like that, because that's not my stilo. Most people that have watched this channel, they know my get down. There's an overwhelming amount of people that are in the comments that know better. And there's just a handful. But even though there's just a handful, it bothers me that, you cats, man, some of you cats are ridiculous, and it's always the cats that, there's no names. It's just a bunch of numbers. You just created an account. Anyways, if I hear something else about it, that video will go back up. If it's true, it ends up being true, it'll go back up. And if not, then it is what it is. But just know this, like I said, either way, no matter what your position is, trust and believe. I learned from this. This is the second time I got stung like this, and it's not going to happen again. If I don't hear about something myself, I'm just not going to speak on it. I'm not going to give nobody else that much power over my credibility, because, it's bit me twice already. Even when I put out a disclaimer, people are still quick to, oh, no, fake news, like Trump said, oh, no, you're lying, it's lies. He took it down because it's all bullshit, it's lies. He's just trying to get a bunch of views. Okay. Anyways, this story right here is a story about Gangster. I told you guys the other day I dropped 2 thumbnails in the community And I basically told you that I was going to drop a story about Gangster that night, but I ended up having another story ahead of that one. So this is the story that I told you guys I was going to drop about Gangster. And what this is it's basically some of his history, why he got in trouble. Gangster was put on disregard status for a while. There were a number of years where he was in trouble behind an incident that happened in the LA County Jail. And I'm going to get into the specifics, the details of what happened and how it ended up getting cleared. Gangster is back on, he's active. He's back on good standing. He's back out there right now in Kern Valley on B Yard doing his thing. So, this is about the trials and tribulations that he went through and how he stayed solid through a lot of that adversity that he was up against. But he never checked in. He stayed solid. Obviously, he stayed true to his beliefs, and in the end, it worked out for him. Anyways, I'm not sure what the case was that originally sent Gangster to prison. That's another story. We'll get into that later. If you guys want to know more about his history, we can get into that later. But at some point, Gangster caught a case and he ended up going to Pelican Bay. So he's up in Pelican Bay, and this is around 1997. 1997, Gangster ends up paroling from Pelican Bay. And around that same time, right when he's paroling, or right before he paroles, one of his big homies, Antonio Tonito Rodriguez, ends up getting killed out there. This was a Mexican mafia member from his neighborhood, the Avenues. And Tonito was somebody that Gangster, obviously, he looked up to, somebody that he knew, somebody that he idolized. He was one of his big homies. So Gangster's up in the Bay. He ends up hearing about, Tonito getting killed out on the streets, and he's furious. Nobody out there is avenging his death. Nobody's doing nothing about his murder. Later on in the story, I'll get into the gang that killed him. That whole gang was green lighted, and they're still green lighted to this day. But so Gangster gets out. He gets out, he paroles, he's back out there on the streets, and he made it, he made a vow to himself to find the individuals that killed his big homie. Like I said, this was somebody that he idolized. It was somebody that he held in high regards. This was somebody that, he looked up to. He wanted to be like this guy. This guy was a Mexican mafia member. And this was something that Gangster was striving to become himself. So he gets out there, he's running around on the streets. He's out there in the trenches trying to find out who whacked his homie. He's out there shaking cats down, asking questions, trying to get to the bottom of it. Who whacked his homie? So eventually, Gangster finds out that there were two brothers from Lowell Street. Two brothers from Lowell Street were the ones that were responsible for killing Gangster. They got into some kind of altercation with them. I don't know what that incident was about. That's another story for another day. I can find out. I can ask my boy about it. But they got into some kind of disagreement, some kind of altercation, and these two brothers, they ended up whacking Tonito. Now, this gang, Lowell Street, this gang has a tumultuous history. It actually was a gang that was part of El Sereno. At one point, they were a part of El Sereno, and they ended up breaking off. They ended up getting green lighted behind them not paying taxes or them taking a stand against the Mexican mafia. So the whole gang gets green lighted. They end up hitting the county jail. They get blasted in the county jail. If they ended up going to prison, it was a long-standing green light. And like I said, that gang is still green lighted to this day. But eventually, they began to embrace the fact that they were green lighted. They started to take a stand against the Mexican mafia, to the point to where they embraced it and they started calling themselves the Green Light Gang. Obviously, getting a tattoo saying, that they were tax-free. This was, they were taking a defiant stance against the Mexican mafia in their whole taxation program. So, these guys, they're embracing it. They're embracing that, that they got a green light by the Mexican mafia. And there was a war out there for a long time. There was a lot of other hoods that were going at it with them. Lock Street was one of the main, hoods out there that were going after these guys. And now I want to say the first individual that got killed, once that green light was put on him, was an individual named Flaco. And he was killed by a guy named Diablo, if I remember right, from, I want to say he's from Lock Street. Don't quote me on that. But he might know, Diablo might even have been from El Sereno. But I believe Flaco was the first one to get killed after the green light was put on that neighborhood. So like I said, since they got that green light put on them, they've been embroiled in a deadly conflict with a lot of the surrounding gangs, in that area. Gangs that were part of the Mexican Mafia's taxation program, gangs that knew that these guys had a green light on them. It was open season. If you caught them, you had a green light on them. It was an open green light. You caught them in the county jail, you caught them in prison. If they identified themselves as being from Lowell Street, they had an issue coming. So this was a long-standing war. Over time, that gang kind of fizzled out. Their numbers decreased, probably because, it wasn't attractive for somebody to get recruited into a gang that the Mexican Mafia was gunning for. So a lot of these guys, that were a part of this gang, either eventually they fell off, or they just started, they jumped neighborhoods, or they just stopped identifying themselves as being part of Lowell Street. So Gangster's young. He's young. He paroles from Pelican Bay in 97. He's out there, he's striving. He wants to become a Mexican Mafia member. He's already got it in his mind that he's going to avenge Tonito's death. And, he wants to make a name for himself. And everybody knows, the fastest way to get street credibility, prison credibility, is to spill blood. This right here is, he knew that this was his ticket to become a Mexican Mafia member. How faster of a way can you get within that organization, become part of that organization, than by going after somebody that killed, one of their brothers that was in good standings. Tonito was in good standings when they killed him. So, this is probably about as worse as it can get out there for a gang in Southern California to end up falling into bad standings. There's a lot of gangs out there that have been green lighted, but at some point they take the green light off. Maybe they pay a fine, or, the Mexican Mafia gives them directives to do something. And, if whatever it is, if they do it, then they agree to take them off that green light list. However, killing a Mexican Mafia member, it got Lowell Street put on that list for the duration. Again, up until today, right now, that green light is still in effect. So I'm not sure what the circumstances were around his arrest after he ends up whacking these two brothers from Lowell Street that killed Tonito. I don't know how he got arrested. I don't know how he got busted. Again, that's another story I can look into later on. But at some point, he gets arrested. He gets arrested and he ends up in the LA County Jail. So this case actually ended up being a death penalty case. I don't know the circumstances behind it, but I know that, in order to get the death penalty, there's special circumstances. So it could have been something like, lying in wait, or, committing a felony in the commission of a murder, or multiple bodies. Those types of things right there, they trigger special circumstances. So that's probably why it was a death penalty case. Plus, it was gang related. It was done in the commission or for the benefit of, a criminal organization like the Mexican Mafia. So while Gangster's in the county jail fighting this case, Smokey from VNE, Barrio Nueve, and Indio from El Sereno, they're there, and they basically got the jail at that time. They're two other big homies, two Mexican Mafia members that are there, and they're basically running the county jail at that time. So they're there, they're in 1750, and they're running the jail. And I don't know if Gangster ended up moving into 1750, or if he ran into them at some other housing unit in the county jail. But at some point, he runs into these guys, and he's around them. So when they find out who he is, they find out that this is Gangster from the Avenues. They're basically like, so you're the one that killed those two cats from Lowell Street that killed our brother, that killed our carnal. You're Gangster. So that was his meal ticket right there. They both spoke up for him, and they basically made him in that county jail. Both of them, put their name on it. They both stamped it. And, from that point on, Gangster was a made member. He's in the county jail now. He's fighting his case. At that point, Gangster, I'm sure he felt like he reached a pinnacle in his career. He had finally made it. He became, a carnal. He made it. He was a Mexican Mafia member. So, he's in the county jail. He's in the thick of the politics. He's doing his thing. He's hitting clavo. He's trying to make money for them, and he's being the best that he can be. Now, like I said, Indio and Smokey were running the county jail. However, there was another Mexican mafia member there by the name of Sapo from Rancho San Pedro. My Spanish is fucked up, but I spit that right there. Rancho San Pedro. So he's there, but he's there from federal prison. He's back there in the county jail. I don't know why he's there, but he's somebody that's, part of the federal prison system. He's from the federal branch, the Mexican mafia in federal prison. So he doesn't really, he's not really a factor in the county jail at that time, because Indio and Smokey were there, as state guys. Again, you got this. It's kind of similar. I'm seeing that it's kind of similar with the Mexican mafia when it comes to the guys in federal custody, that they don't have no jurisdiction over, the county jails in California or any of the prisons. Whenever they come through the county jails or they come through the prisons, their involvement is very limited, because they're considered part of the federal prison system. They're not part of the state prison system. So, I'm sure he was still embraced like one of their C's. He's still a Mexican mafia member. But as far as the leadership in that county jail, he wasn't really a factor. That fell into Indio and Smokey's hands. Basically, they're the ones that's running the county jail at that time. So like I said, they end up pulling Gangster in the county jail. They make him right there in the county jail. He's young. He's in his 20s. I want to say he was around 24. If I remember right, he was around 24. So, so they start teaching him the Mexican mafia curriculum. They start educating him. He goes through the indoctrination process. They start lacing him up, schooling him in the county jail. Eventually, what happens is Indio and Smokey end up getting transferred out. Both of them, their cases got adjudicated. They end up getting transferred back to Pelican Bay. So they end up back up in Pelican Bay, and the county jail fell into the hands of Gangster. So Gangster, he's running the county jail, and then what ends up happening is another individual from the avenues pulls up, a guy named Tigre, that's in trouble. For whatever reason, he's in hot water. He's in hot water, but this is somebody that's been around for a long time. This is a long-term member. This is somebody that, has a lot of influence. Everybody knows him. He's been part of this organization for a long time. His name carries a lot of weight. He has a lot of credibility within the organization. There's a lot of Sureños that know him, but they know who he is, and they know he's got status. But a lot of the times what ends up happening is that they don't know their politics. That's an internal thing. Only those who need to know, for example, that he was in trouble, that he was in bad standings. That's something that they probably kept under wraps within the organization. So, you can imagine he pulls up to the county jail. There's a lot of Sureños in that county jail that don't know that he's in bad standings. So he gets there, and, because he's got status and because he's been around and he's somebody that's, he's used to being in a leadership position, he just starts doing his thing as soon as he gets there. Gangster's running the jail, and, he probably got there. He's seen Gangster. He's young. And Gangster probably told me, I got the llaves, I'm running the jail, everything goes through me. But being that he was a long-time member and he's somebody that's been around, he probably just continued to just do his thing, whether Gangster told him, you're part of the leadership, or, for us in a situation like that, it doesn't always mean that somebody that has rank would come in and pull rank on somebody and take their position just because he has more rank. At least like me, myself personally, what I would do, I've talked about this before in the past, is if I would pull up, to San Quentin, and if everything was running smooth, there's no reason for me to rock the boat. I'm just going to slide back and let whoever's running that prison continue to do their thing. I'm not going to go in and pull rank and pull status just because I like to be the shot caller. And man, you're saving me trouble. San Quentin is a motherfucker to run anyway. It's a nonstop job. I'm talking about 1,000 kites a day. You don't never get no sleep over there. When I was over there, I used to, I'd be working all day. But anyways, So, you know, Tigre, he's probably somebody that's used to being in a leadership position. So he's doing his thing, and at some point, Indio reaches out to Gangster and he tells him, "Hey, that dude Tigre that's there, the homie Tigre, because they're all from the same neighborhood. Well, at least Gangster was from that same neighborhood. Indio's from El Sereno. So, Indio tells him that, that individual Tigre from, your homeboy, hey, step him down. He's got nothing to do with leadership in that county jail. Step him down, put him on disregard status. He's in trouble for whatever reason. And again, that's another story. If you guys want to know why he was in trouble, I can ask my boy, what his situation was. But, this is what Indio conveyed to him. Step him down. He's not to be a part of anything that's going on in that county jail. He's not privy to nothing. Nothing is to go through his hands. Shut him down. So this is something that, basically Indio gets at him, but he's got the support of Psycho from the avenues, from Boxer from the avenues. All these guys are up there, and they're basically trying to get a Gangster now, telling him, hey, step that dude down. He has nothing to do with the county jail. He's not part of the leadership over there. You run that county jail. We told you when we left that you're to run that jail through us. So Gangster starts, taking whatever kind of measures or whatever kind of steps he starts to take to step Tigre down. He starts to do it, but it's to no avail. I don't know what he did, what he tried to implement. Maybe he tried to send some kites out to, the manpower and let them know, start sending filters out to let them know that, to stop acknowledging this individual. But, in the meantime, Tigre is still doing his thing. He's still asserting his influence. And, every time Gangster tried to shut him down, he wasn't getting nowhere because the Sureños were still following Tigre's lead. When Tigre would send directives out there, they would acknowledge his directives. And, you can imagine Gangster's plight. Here he is. He's trying to shut this individual down. This is a long-term C. He's a savvy individual. He's familiar with politics. He knows how the game is played. So, Gangster was probably in above his head. And, he communicates back to Indio. He's like, man, I'm trying to shut this dude down, but, he's not going for it. Every time I try to shut him down, this dude keeps on, he pushes back. And the thing about it is, everybody here, they're listening to him. They're not acknowledging my authority. This dude is basically just doing what he wants to do. So, they continue to emphasize that he needs to step this dude down. At some point, Boxer gets it at Gangster himself. And this is somebody else that's from Gangster's hood. And Boxer goes in on him. He straight goes in on Gangster. He's like, check this out, man. What the fuck we got to do? We got to hold your hand. I mean, we told you, man, to shut this dude down. Shut him down. They're like, we pulled you. Assert your influence. Take a lead role here, bro. Shut that dude down. We're not going to keep telling you. Either shut him down or we're going to shut you down. So now, Gangster, he probably feels like he's in a bad position. Feels like he's in a bad position. He's trying to shut Tigre down. Tigre, he probably knows what's up. He's not no dummy. He's been around for a long time. And, these guys are trying to shut him down through Gangster, and Gangster ain't getting nowhere. One of the other Mexican Mafia members that I forgot to mention that was also pushing Gangster, to shut down Tigre was Pee-wee. So it was Pee-wee, Psycho, and Boxer, all from the avenues. These are all guys that Gangster looks up to. These are his big homies. These are, Mexican Mafia members that have been around for a long time. And, he's got these, his big homies telling him to shut this other guy down, who's also from his neighborhood, who's also from the avenues, but he wasn't getting nowhere. You guys got to remember, Gangster just got recruited. He's a young C, and he hasn't really asserted his influence as a Mexican Mafia member. And, he's trying to politic against somebody that is a lot more savvy than him and somebody that has a lot more experience than him. Tigre had been around. And I don't know Tigre myself, but from the way that this was described to me, Tigre just had a lot of influence. People heard his name, and he was considered somebody that had a lot of respect. So I mean, in actuality, when you look at it, they put Gangster in a position where that was above his head. You know, I understand they were trying to shut this individual down, but I've seen situations similar like this happen with us. You get a young C that goes in and tries to shut down, a C that's been around for a long time, a C that has a lot of influence. And, I know this is not about me, but I ended up being in a similar situation like this where I had to go to Corcoran and strip the regimental commander that was in that prison for at least 10 years. And he had a lot of influence. All the NF members that were there in Corcoran, they were firmly, under that individual, and they were loyal to him. So, I was put in a position where I had to go in there, and I had that working against me. But the thing is I was a seasoned C by then. I knew how to maneuver my way around and navigate in that situation. And that's what I did. I ended up succeeding, but obviously Gangster didn't. This was something that he couldn't do. As all this is going on, Pee Wee, Psycho, and Boxer, they're making a strong push to get Gangster to shut Tigre down. He just continues to push back. He continues to push back. And the more that Gangster reaches back out to them and more he tells them that, look, this guy ain't trying to step down. He's at some point, he's starting to look like, he's ineffective. He's incapable of, taking a lead role, stepping up as, a Mexican mafia member. They're probably like, bro, step up, step up and assert your authority. You know what I mean? Let your nuts swing. And, all he had for him was like, I can't shut this dude down. I'm trying. And, he's got the influence of everybody that's here in the jail. They're not acknowledging me on that level. They're acknowledging him. So as more time goes on, and there's no results. Tigre is not getting shut down. All Gangster is doing is making excuses. They're just getting more frustrated. And Boxer, he was somebody that was just laying in it. He was laying into Gangster, short of threatening them. Like, if you don't shut this individual down, you don't shut him down, you don't step him down and put him on disregard, it's going to end up having an adverse effect on your status. We're telling you right now, this is your fair warning. Step that individual down. Well, Gangster, at some point, he realizes that it's not doing him no justice to keep communicating back to Psycho, Pee Wee, and Boxer that he can't do nothing about this individual. He can't shut him down. What he does is he comes up with a plan to utilize his pro per status, those resources, in an effort to help him in this situation. So since Gangster was fighting a DP case, since he was fighting a death penalty case, this gave him a lot of latitude to utilize a lot of the resources that he had at his hands, as far as the legal resources. If you're fighting a case and you go pro per, you're basically representing yourself. You have the ability to subpoena people. You have the ability to pull people back to the county jail for character witnesses. This is your case. So you have a lot of latitude, over those kind of resources. And the Mexican mafia, they're the ones that really exploited this resource right here. They took it to another level when it comes to, when it came to using those subpoena powers to pull other Mexican mafia members down to the county jail, when it came to using those subpoena powers to, actually pull down targets to the county jail. And then once they got there, they would end up stabbing them. Or when it came to subpoenaing, some of the other Mexican mafia members, their leadership, just to get them all down there together, for mafia business, so that they could take care of mafia business. They're the ones that exploited it. They're the ones that took it to another level and, exploited that resource, when you go pro per, to be able to subpoena people to bring them back to the county jail. They were known for doing that. And this is what Gangster did. That's what he ultimately did. He subpoenaed Indio. He got him to come down to the county jail. And, I'm sure his thinking was, you know what, I'll get Indio down there. Indio will take a lead role, shut this individual down, problem solved. However, it didn't work out like that. What Gangster wasn't, what he wasn't really thinking about was that if Indio came back to the county jail, it'd be great if they put him right next to him and he was able to work directly with them. But that's not what happened. They ended up pulling Indio back down to the county jail, but they housed him in another part of the jail, which basically it defeated the whole purpose. It didn't matter if Indio was 500-600 miles back up in Pelican Bay or on the other side of the county jail. He wasn't in front of them. He wasn't there with them to deal with it. So he's in the county jail, but it did Gangster no good. So anyway, Indio's there. He gets to the jail, and by now he's pissed off. He's pissed off. He brought him back down to the county jail because he couldn't do this himself. And now Indio's there. Indio basically tells Gangster, that, hey, we're stepping you down. We're stepping you down right now. You're on freeze. You're on ice. Just go ahead and step on back. We'll deal with this situation. But for right now, man, you were ineffective. We've been telling you for a while to step this dude down, to shut him down. You didn't do it. You couldn't do it. So, you're on ice right now. We're stepping you down. So, obviously Gangster, he's upset. He's pissed off. He went from a high to a low. He just got recruited. He felt like he reached the pinnacle. He wanted to shine bright. He wanted to make the best out of, his career being a Mexican Mafia member. And, he wanted to be effective while he was doing it, but he failed. And, in with all due respect to him, it was a bad situation that they put him in. You can't expect a newly recruited Mexican Mafia member to go up against, a seasoned, savvy individual like Tigre. You just can't do it. What do you expect? You put him in a position that, was above his head. So now he's on ice. They stepped him down. And for right now, they basically clipped his wings. Unfortunately for Gangster, that situation ended up becoming such a headache that it ended up backfiring on him. He was the one that ended up catching the short end of the stick. So, he's there now. He's on ice. He's shut down. But, he still continues to identify himself as a big homie. He just tells people that he's on ice, but he's still representing himself, as being a big homie. And that right there was a no-no. When they stepped him down, that's basically, taking his status. That's what they did. And, he continued, maybe he didn't know, but he continued to identify himself as a big homie, that he was, a Mexican Mafia member, but that he was just on ice until, they figured everything out, which he was going to get through it. And, he was still all good. That's what he was telling people. So again, he's devastated, but there's nothing that he could do. All he could do is just go back to fighting this case, focus on, his legal shit, and, slide back. Just slide back, continue to be, of any kind of assistance he can to stay up under the radar, not to make no waves. He's already kind of got himself in hot water. So like I told you guys earlier, there was another Mexican Mafia member there in the county jail at that time named Sapo from Rancho San Pedro. And this individual actually reached out to Gangster, and, he told Gangster he was aware of everything that happened. He's seen, the whole power play, the way that they put Gangster in that situation, that it was above his head. And Sapo reached out to Gangster, and he told him, he's like, look, he tells him, I'll reinstate you and I'll make you a brother again, but you'll be up under the feds. And Gangster was like, nah. That's too complicated, and I don't want to end up getting myself in another situation. I'm gonna go ahead and just respect, with these brothers, what they already implemented. But that's just gonna, that's just gonna create too much confusion. I'm gonna be stuck in the state. I got a state case, so I'm not going to the feds. I don't want to be stuck in the state up under, federal jurisdiction, and I'm stuck. I'm stranded over here. If I was going to the feds, it'd be a different story. But at the end of the day, Gangster elected not to, have Sapo reinstate his status. Gangster figured, you know what? When this case is over, I'll make my way back up to Pelican Bay. When I get back up there, I'll deal with it. When I get up there, I'm sure I'll get myself reinstated. This wasn't my fault. It's not like I did anything like real malicious against the organization. I failed at stripping somebody that, and I'll explain the situation. Nobody was listening to me over here. I mean, what do you expect me to do? But, that was Gangster's plan, just to fight his case. Once the case was adjudicated, once he ended up catching a bus, going back up to Pelican Bay, he dealt with it up there. And he was confident that once he got up there around the right people, that they would, reinstate him and that he'd be in good standings. So after Gangster gets convicted, they drop the death penalty case, and he ends up getting convicted on a life case in the state. He ends up over there in Corcoran. He ends up over there with Artie from King Cobras and Turi from Kukas. So he ends up over there with these two brothers, and when he pulls up, they already know his whole situation. They're aware of everything that happened with them. Somehow, I mean, these things, good news travels fast sometimes. But, when people are leaving the county jail, people are in transit, going to court, that's a lot of the times that's when the information gets facilitated. Somebody takes a bundle of kites up to, prison, then it ends up getting, filtered out to where it's got to go. So, when he got there to Corcoran, they already knew what time it was. They knew the situation. They knew that he was over there in the county jail, that he was there with Tigre, that he couldn't shut him down, and that basically he was on ice because, he was ineffective. He didn't do his job, whether it was because he didn't want to do it, whether he had a reason, whether he had an agenda, or whether he wasn't able to do it. They knew what the situation was. But you got to understand too, this isn't, even though there were other C's that elected to put him on this status, it wasn't like he had done something malicious against the organization. It wasn't like he stole money or he done something, he broke character and did something foul. This was because, basically he couldn't get the job done. So any C, with a rational way of thinking that looked at that situation, would have looked at it and would have been like, damn, what do you expect? This brother was a new C. You guys put him in a situation where, you set him up to fail. And then now you want to put him on freeze. So, he gets there at some point, Turi from Kukas, he ends up reinstating his status. He reinstates him, and he's got Gangster working up under him. He's got him working under him, and Gangster's back in the mix. That was probably the best thing that happened to him at that point. He's probably not even giving a shit about being convicted on a life case now. Then Turi puts him in a leadership role. So he's over there, he's hitting Glavo. He's trying to do everything he can for the Mexican mafia. He's making money. He's, out there in the politics, in the thick of it. And while he was there, he was shining. But then he ends up getting transferred to Pelican Bay. But like I told you guys, the thing that ended up hurting Gangster from that point on, or even before that, from the time when he got put on, when they stepped him down, is that he continued to tell other Sureños, other Mexican mafia members that he was still a big homie. So, I'm sure he had good intentions. He meant well. He wanted to be a part of that organization, and he was proud to be a part of that organization. But, people were hearing about that, and they didn't like it. They weren't too happy about it. They heard that he was still representing himself as, an active member of the Mexican mafia, and that wasn't the case. Once they stepped him down, they sat him down, and he should have stopped identifying himself, as a Mexican mafia member, but he didn't. And it didn't help that once he got to Corcoran that, Turi, he reinstated him. So now he's just putting it out there. I'm back on track. I'm fully functioning, and that's what he's putting out there. But meanwhile, Indio, Boxer, Psycho, Pee Wee, and all them, they're still, they're still pissed off at him, and they're the ones that sat him down. So, this right here, it just created more conflict for him, more conflict and more confusion for Gangster. So at this point, it was either prior to him getting transferred back to Pelican Bay while he was still in Corcoran, or right after he got transferred up to Pelican Bay. But at some point, Jocko from Azusa gets involved. He gets involved. He ends up hearing about Gangster, identifying himself as still identifying himself as being a Mexican mafia member, and he's got something to say about it. So they end up bumping heads. Jocko tells him to stop identifying himself like that. They bump heads, and this just creates some more bad blood for Gangster. But let me back up. There's something that I forgot to tell you guys. So what ends up happening before Gangster gets transferred back to Pelican Bay, what ends up happening is, so he's there, he's working under Thudi, he's there with Artie from King Cobras, and Rascal, another Mexican mafia member from Calexico. So what ends up happening is, he's still there in Corcoran, working up under Thudi. He's there with Artie from King Cobras, and another Mexican mafia member by the name of Rascal from Calexico pulls up with Fernie B from the Dog Patch. They pull up. They're well aware of everything that's going on with Gangster. They see that Thudi's got him working up under him, and from that point on, they sit Gangster down again. They're like, this individual right here, he's got, you guys got no business reinstating him. He basically propagated against another brother. They tell Thudi and Artie that this guy, he's been spreading propaganda, and he was politicking against another brother. So they sit him down. Now you can imagine how Gangster probably felt. Like, man, this is some bullshit. You know what I mean? I get reinstated again. Now, they knock me down again. But, Gangster, he stayed true to his, his beliefs. He didn't check out. He didn't panic. He continued to push. He continued to, to believe that somehow, some way this is going to work out. Even though they sat him down again. He had been there in Corcoran, was doing his thing. He was working up under Artie, or working up under Thudi with Artie, and he was doing his thing. But now he ends up getting transferred to Pelican Bay. This is when he gets transferred. So he's back up there in Pelican Bay now. So when Rascal and Fernie B, when they sit Gangster down, they basically tell Thudi and Artie that, that Gangster had been spreading false propaganda about Boxer, his homie from the Avenues. Boxer, the one that was riding him, the one that was, basically telling them, if you don't shut this individual down, I'm going to shut you down. And, this was somebody he knew from his hood. And like I told you guys, from the way it was communicated to me, he actually looked up to Boxer. He looked up to Boxer. He looked up to Pee Wee. He looked up to, Psycho, all these brothers that were part of the Mexican mafia. But for whatever reason, Boxer was riding him. Boxer was on his helmet, telling him that, if you don't do this, I'm going to shut you down, and almost to the point where he started threatening him. Well, what Gangster did was Gangster got upset. He got real upset with Boxer, and he ended up, obviously he felt like there was something going on with Boxer. He felt suspicious about something. I don't know what piqued his interest. I don't know why he got suspicious. But what he did was he had his lawyer pull all of Boxer's transcripts from his case, all his paperwork, his police reports, his background history, everything. And he started reading through it. He started going through everything with the fine-tooth comb. He read through all his transcripts. He looks at his background. He goes through his police reports. Boom, he gets to a police report where obviously Boxer made a statement against one of his co-defendants that led to that co-defendant getting arrested and that co-defendant catching a life case. So now he feels like, I got something on this cat. He feels like, he hit the jackpot. So obviously, Gangster, not being versed with politics, he should have knew that he was taking the chance by doing that. Because although I'm sure he was looking at it as, you know what, I'm uncovering a rat right now. I'm uncovering somebody that, you know, that is active and they cooperated. The way that he's not looking at it, as you know, a lot of Mexican mafia members, even NF members, might have took the position of like, what the fuck are you doing politicking against my brother? Like, I don't want to see those police. I'm not even going to look at them. The fact that you're politicking against an active Mexican mafia member, you're fucking out of pocket, dude. You know, they could take that position. They might not even have looked at the police reports. And I don't think they did based on what happened in the story. So, you know, him thinking that he's got a gem, he's got something in hand to expose Boxer. When he did expose it, it wasn't well received. They looked at it as if he was spreading propaganda about Boxer, saying that he was a snitch, that he had paperwork on him. And that's basically what happened to him. So that's why they sat him down again. That's why they sat him down, they pulled his status. And so from there, Gangster goes back to Pelican Bay. He's up there in Pelican Bay now, and he's on disregard status for a couple of years. I want to say all this happened around 2011. This was before they started letting everybody out to the yards. Everybody was still stranded back there in the SHU program at that time. So he's back there, and even though Gangster knew he was in shaky standings, he's still back there trying to participate. He's still trying to be part of the team. He's still, he's still pushing a line. He didn't check out, he didn't panic. He knew that this class action lawsuit was in effect. And he also knew that there was a chance that everybody was going to get kicked back out to the main line. And Gangster was willing to go back out there and take whatever he had coming to him. So, he stuck to his guns. He stuck to his guns. He stayed solid, and he continued to push that line. Now, what ends up happening is, I don't know where he was housed at when he first got to Pelican Bay, but he ends up getting moved to the ASU. So he goes to ADSE. He ends up over there with Babo Castellanos. Yeah, Tablas' brother. So he ends up over there with Babo from Florencia and Chino from DF. He ends up over there with them, and he gets there. They know what time it is. Like I said, these kind of things right here, they have their way of traveling. They have their way of getting, to the hands or to the ears that need to see him. So he gets there. Babo, he knows what time it is with them. When Gangster was back there in the SHU program, they were allowing him to coexist on some level. They didn't just completely shut him down. They would still communicate with them, and on some level, he was still embraced, even though he was on disregard status. However, everybody knew that, and this is not something I'm making up, this is something that was told to me. Everybody knew that if the doors popped, if they came out on the tier with Gangster, it was open season. They had a green light on him because he was on disregard status at that time. There was a lot of shit going on with him. So he stayed on that status for a number of years, from like 2011 up until they started letting everybody out of the SHU program and started kicking everybody out to the main lines. So now he ends up over there in the ASU with Babo Castellanos and Chino from DF. He ends up over there, and again, they know what time it is with them. And that case, the lawsuit, the Todd Ashker and Danny Troxel lawsuit, is coming to fruition. Gangster was back there during the hunger strikes. He went through all that stuff. He still stayed solid. He still, continued to believe that somehow it would all work out for him in the long run. So, boom, the lawsuit they end up prevailing on the lawsuit. They prevail. They start kicking people out to the main lines. Gangster knew he was getting kicked out, and he was getting ready to go out to the yard. He was staying solid. And again, this was somebody that, even though he knew he was in hot water, he was in bad standings, he was still willing to go out there. And that had to be respected on some level. But what ends up happening is Babo and Chino, they're there in the same block or the same unit with Gangster. And right before they get ready to get kicked out, they end up hearing that Boxer just checked in. Boxer apparently found out, he found out that, the lawsuit prevailed as well and that he was getting ready to get kicked out. I'm sure there's a lot of dudes up in Pelican Bay that are stuck in those cells up there that are locked up, that have demons, they have skeletons in their closets. And I guess, Boxer, he probably figured, what, man, that police report, it's going to come back to bite me in my ass. Somebody's liable to find out about it. I'm on borrowed time. We're getting ready to get kicked back out to the yard. You know what, man, I'm going to play this safe. I'm up out of here, man. So he checks out. When Babo and Chino hear about this, they're like, what? This fool checked out. So basically when, before they got kicked out, it was Chino. It wasn't Babo. Chino got a Gangster and he tells Gangster, he goes, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and give you a pass. I'm going to reinstate your status as a brother. And, you're back on good standings. Boxer just checked in, which tells us a lot. It tells us that, you're the one that we should have been embracing the whole time. That, not that rat, not that piece of shit. Obviously, he knew that was going to catch up to him. So, I'm reinstating you. You're back on good standings. Congratulations. Welcome back. I'm glad things worked out for you, brother. You know what I'm saying? So from that point on, Gangster has been on good standings. Gangster, like I said earlier, is now in Kern Valley on B Yard. He's programming. He's out there in the mix. He's looked at as a big homie. I'm sure now, all these things that Gangster's been through, all this adversity, it's made him a better person. It's made him a stronger character. All these trials and tribulations, the things that we go through, that's what makes us, that's what gives us our grit, the character. That's what makes us, it made him stronger. I'm sure it made him stronger on some level, but he was already a strong-minded individual. For him to go through all that, all the things that he went through, he got out, as a youngster. He heard that his older homie got taken out, somebody that he idolized. He gets out, he vows to take out the two individuals that killed him. He goes out there, he whacks those two cats. He ends up catching a death penalty case. He goes through the county jail. He fights the case. He ends up getting put in a bad situation, by not being able to, sit this individual down. And Boxer was the one, for those of you that are, I hope you guys are following this. Boxer isn't the one that he couldn't sit down. Boxer is the one that, started getting on his helmet. He started telling him, hey, you need to sit that individual down. Tigre was the one that was already in bad standings. But, they figured that, Boxer had an agenda. He was the one that originally was, he led the push to have Gangster sat down. So, that ended up working out for him. And again, he's somebody out there now that he's well respected because of everything that he's been through. A lot of people know his story. This isn't new. I'm not telling you guys, a lot of you nothing new. A lot of Sureños that, have been around him, that know his history, they know. And, let me make something very clear to you guys. I don't profess to be 100% accurate on everything that I talk about. I try to be, this stuff is conveyed to me and, I'll get it and I'll try to get it to you guys the same exact way that I get it. I don't add no fluff to it. I don't embellish nothing. I don't add more to the story, no extras. I don't put no tapatio on it, none of that stuff. That's not my place to do that. I give it to you exactly the same way that I get it. So, in the event that there's something that might be off a little bit, I can guarantee you that you can take two individuals that can see something happen on a yard, that can be out there when an incident takes place on a yard, And you can sit both of those individuals down and ask them what happened in that incident. And both of them will have, for the most part, the story will be around, it'll be the same concept. Most of it'll be the same, but there'll be some differences, some subtle differences that might make it a little bit different. So when I tell these stories, if there's something that's off a little bit, don't jump in the comment. I didn't go like that, bro. You're lying. You making stuff up, man. I got no interest in doing that. Again, I'm doing this for you guys. A lot of you guys, you like the stories. I don't have to do YouTube. If you guys think that, I'm on here and I'm some kind of cat that jumps on there with malicious intentions, I just end up doing something else. I don't mind doing YouTube. I enjoy it. I interact with a lot of you. A lot of you support me in ways that, it's something that, it's appreciated. Trust me. Considering the circumstances, I appreciate it, man. I get a lot of support from a lot of you. But, it gets to the point where individuals are thinking that, that I'm putting out shit to get views and stuff like that, and I'm putting out bad information, that I have some type of malicious agenda or something like that, then it's time for me to step on back, because I don't have to do this. You know what I mean? But anyways, like I said, I've said enough, man. I've said enough. I'm not going to say nothing else about it. With respects to tablas, if I hear something else about it, I'm going to let you guys know. One way or the other, my source is going to have to tell me something. He's going to have to give me an explanation of why that was told to him, the details around it, and if it wasn't true, why that information was conveyed to him. If it was true, then that video will go back up. I didn't take that video down because I didn't believe in that information. I just took it down because I felt uncomfortable with leaving it up there, especially when there was a comment in there saying like, hey, bro, if this is unsubstantiated, with all due respect, can you please take it down for the family? And that individual thanked me for doing that. And some of you actually, you acknowledge that taking it down shows some integrity. But there's just those cats that are just, never going to get it. No matter what, they're going to spin a false narrative. Fake news, this guy is, he's putting out all this bullshit. Come on, man. Those of you that know better, that's all that matters to me. So with that being said, I hope you guys enjoyed this story. I got some more for you guys coming. I'm going to try to get you out an Inner Demons tonight. We'll see what happens. We'll see if I can keep the mojo going. But anyways, I hope you enjoyed this story. I'll be back with another one again tomorrow. Oh, but hold on. Pump the brakes. I'll try to get out a story early for you guys tomorrow. However, tomorrow is Thursday, and I'm making that announcement. I told you guys I'd be making an announcement about something that's going to be happening on the 28th, which is now just a few days away. So tomorrow I'm going to run a live. I'm going to run a live anywhere from 3 to 7, somewhere in between. I'll put it in the community section of the channel. I'll let you guys know when I'm going to run that live so that you guys can tap in, just in case you don't get those notifications. This is something that you guys are not going to want to miss, because like I keep telling you guys, this is something that's going to take the channel to another level. This is something that I've been waiting on for a while now, and it's finally happening. So the 28th is a day that's pretty significant to the channel. Tomorrow, you guys will understand. I'm going to go ahead and, run a live and pretty much break everything down to you guys. I'm going to explain it tomorrow. So I'll try to get out videos to you guys. I try to get those knocked out earlier in the day so that I'll have time to run that live later on in the evening. But if I get caught up early, then I'll run that live tomorrow, and I'll run you guys some videos the following day. But let me try to get you guys out in Inner Demons tonight while I can. Anyways, with that being said, again, I hope you guys enjoyed this story. There's a lot you guys can take from it, but I'm going to go ahead and let you guys figure that out. With that being said, this your boy B, and I'm out.